Hello, 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 and welcome to the holiday series.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sam.
And I'm Kat. Welcome to the Kat and Sam show, um, where we talk about the hard subject of domestic violence and coercive control. We're just all kinds of fun here.
We are, and we don't mean to be facetious or,
No,
make light of anything, but it's just like, it's that strange
it's
conflict,
a
isn't it? We're in a holiday season, but and it gets worse in the holiday season. But there comes a point where sometimes you have to laugh or you just cry. But it's yeah,
well. I just meant like it's a hard subject that we talk about,
yeah.
and it's hard to make light of a hard subject.
Well,
but
yeah, yeah, and it
but
shouldn't be made light of, but that doesn't mean that you can't
no.
have. Humor is it pricks the bubble of tension, and uh, even when you're talking about a really difficult subject, sometimes the tension can just be a little bit too much. So, you know, it's let's we are going to be doing, we thought what we do today, didn't we, Kat, is Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future, and just see where it took us. What did your Christmases used to be like?
It's kind of funny because my Christmases in my childhood were very joyful.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, it was the one day when there was a lot of peace, um, which is interesting. I came from a family that owned a pharmacy, and so they lived with my grandparents, and uh, we would get up and open Christmas presents, and then we would um, have Christmas breakfast, and then we would go to the pharmacy, and I would wrap presents for people who forgot their gifts. People would pick up their prescriptions, and we would be there from about 10 until 2, and then we would go home and we would have Christmas dinner. And then we did this thing where we wrote a Christmas play. And the funny thing about the Christmas play is that everybody had to write a page. So all day you had to write your page, and it was funny because there was a theme, and it was always about finding the light in the Christmas tree. That was always the end. So you could only read the line of the page before you,
Right.
and then you knew the characters, and everybody had to dress in character, and then you get to the end, and then somebody else would write, so you never knew where the story was going to
So
go.
that's
And
fantastic.
so one year we lost the my uncle had he had gallbladder stones. Not really, but he had gallbladder stones. So he had a bag of garlic pinned to um his robe. And so every time he would
What?
oh you know
Oh, oh,
from
got you.
and he would grab the garlic, and then we'd lost like that whole thing was like losing the toilet seat got lost somehow, and we found the toilet seat in the Christmas tree or
Oh
around the
my
Christmas
goodness.
tree. It's the most ridiculous thing, but it was the only time of year that and the only day that I can remember in my childhood that was joyous. That people were not mean on Christmas. in the house that I grew up in.
Mm. I see, that's extreme. It made me think of the in the war when there was that, truce between the Germans and the British, and sort of like the power of the day. And obviously for some it still isn't peaceful, but yeah, I mean, mine was joyous as well. I mean, oh god, one of dear, I can't believe I'm going to be admitting this publicly. But there was one Christmas. I've got an uncle. We're from an Irish background, so I've got an uncle who's only a year older than me, and he was one of those where he had the brain waves, and I was the stupid idiot that did it. And so there was one Christmas.
I've been in those shoes.
Mm-hmm. There was one. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've never changed. I don't know. But there was one Christmas where he came and woke me up. He's like, Sammy, come on. Santa's been, because he'd been downstairs, and of course there was this a huge sort of pile, and there was all the family were there for Christmas. There was loads and loads of people there for Christmas, and oh god, we opened everything. We literally opened everything. Like Mum came down in the morning. It was like, so nobody knew who had got what from who or anything. There was no paper. There was nothing matched the present, and it was just yes. I did get something of a telling off that year, but even doing that, it wasn't a really bad one, But yeah, it was just like, it was kind of potluck, and people sort of like saying, "Oh, who do you think this is for?" So it did add a little bit of an extra dimension to the opening of the Christmas presents, but I never did it again, put it that way. But I'm really glad that you come from a family that opens the Christmas presents first thing. I can't imagine. I know a lot of people don't open it until after Christmas dinner or after the Queen's speech, and I'm just like, I don't think I could have stood that anticipation. And I always do the same thing on Christmas. It's become a bit of a tradition. Christmas and my birthday, which is I have chocolate for breakfast on Christmas Day. And it's it was lovely, and it is. I don't know. I wonder what it is, because we weren't a particularly religious family, but it's interesting how the figures for domestic abuse drop. The reporting, drops over Christmas. The actual sort of days of Christmas and Boxing Day, and then it exponentially goes up right after. And it's like there's a thought that it's because victims, they're working so hard, they don't want to spoil Christmas, they don't want anything to go wrong, that so they don't report over Christmas. They want this to be a magical day, especially if they have children together.
Well, I can't say that Christmas stuff was in my memory of when we lived with my grandparents, and that was after my family broke away from each other. My nuclear family, my mom and my dad. So it was a different setting. But I also think about. Did I interrupt you?
No.
Oh, good. I also think about like when I was in a relationship and it just was horrible the day before and the day of. They just weren't as joyous.
No. And I think that was one of the things. So we had that, Christmas was always fun. Santa has always been, and the whole mince pie and a little sherry by the fire and a carrot for Rudolph and all of that. We carried it on for, as you would do, I mean, I doubt there's any youngsters watching, but, as you would do for every year. And then I don't know about you, but I've sort of like got this slice of time where Christmas just became about, I suppose, about that kind of tension and angst I was talking about in the beginning. You know, there wasn't anything joyous. It was all about show. You know, presents were weaponized. You know, either like, you know, presents were given, but it was presents that were deliberately knew something you wouldn't like, couldn't wear, were allergic to, or, you know, and then you're ungrateful and all the rest of it. But I remember it was right at the very end, actually, when I'd had an operation. And, you know, it was insistent that the operation was in at that time because I couldn't drive. I couldn't drive or go anywhere. I had to have all of this equipment and stuff because the operation was on my hip. So, and I was just left on my own post-op, you know. And I can remember saying to people, "Oh no, I'm going to be at home on my own this Christmas. I'll be in charge of the remote control and this, that, and the other." Just the shock in people's and I was like, sort of like thinking, and you know, when you get that, it's almost like a screenshot of yourself, and you know that you know your facial expression and their facial expression. You're pretending to be all positive about it. You know, I mean, medically, I shouldn't have been left on my own anyway.
Well, you know,
but yeah, that was probably my worst Christmas, I would say. Having the worst bit about it was having to pretend that it was okay.
but you know, it just came to me. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about it. In some ways, I think that we, it's like any day. It's not. It's. I think when you're a giver, you put things emphasizing on celebration and on having fun, and then somebody's not getting, you know, the narcissist is not getting the attention they want, and so they turn it around and drive it back to them. And you know, in a way, it hijacks Christmas.
Yeah,
the Christmas hijack of Christmas past. You know.
Yeah, it was. I think that's a really good word. It was like it was hijacked and just kind of, you know, God, talk about sucking the joy and the life and that word that you said, peace. You know, there wasn't that peace, there wasn't that comfort, there wasn't that, you know, that sort of excitement and that thing of sort of like, oh, let's wear, you know, you either put on, because that's the other thing I do Christmas morning, by the way, is I put on, if I'm given gifts of clothing or whatever, I put on everything.
We did too.
Do you? Awesome. And of course, it very often does not match at all in any way, shape or form. And there was, there was one, I hate to admit it again, but there was one year where I'd been given a set of these wonderful pants, but there is a photo of me somewhere with them on my head. So but yeah, I love these traditions that sort of develop out of just fun and nonsense and things like that, well, you know.
Well, interestingly enough, that's what we did when I was growing up.
Well, it was wear everything that you were given.
But it was taken away because it was thought to be foolish.
There you are. Yeah, same. Yeah.
So it's funny because I just can't even. It's like supposed to be joyful. It's supposed to be. I mean, in anticipation of you know, if you're Christian, the light. If you're the light of the world.
Yeah.
supposedly. So,
but and it's better. Whichever religion you're in, it's a pagan. Certainly for me, it's about the light in the middle of winter. It's about the start of a new year. It's about the promise that has. It's about the giving thanks for what's gone, and sometimes even giving thanks for saying thank God that year's gone. Do you know what I mean? But being together and as yeah, really simple stuff that nobody in their right minds would want to
well, I mean,
sabotage. It's just, why would you? Just why would you?
well, I was watching something yesterday, and one of the comments that was made was there is a um, chaos
Mm.
inside the narcissist that wants the target. The narcissist wants the target to calm that chaos,
Oh.
and I think that, I mean, that is Christmas past in how it was for us growing up.
Mm.
We could have been sisters
We could. I mean, I didn't have
easily,
that. Yeah.
but it's so funny to have. I mean, you didn't have, your uncle didn't have garlic gold,
No, he didn't
or
have
gold.
garlic gallstones, but do you know what? I will tell him about the garlic gallstones, and I think that's the kind of thing that he would love. So,
Well, and that's how it was,
mm,
and that's how life should be, and
yeah.
and then you come into these other situations, and it's like taken away. And I
Mm,
think, if you are living in Christmas past and your traditions and things have been taken away from you, do what you can in this moment to bring that joy back in. And if you didn't have those when you were growing up, try to find some. I hope that you can find some joy, um, just in knowing that you're doing something different to make your life better in this moment. Because that's where life is best lived.
well, I think that's absolutely beautiful and absolutely right, and I think that's what Christmas is about. And you're right, and in the smallest little way, even if it's just putting a pair of pants on your head on your own and going, ha, you've done it. So,
Hit
who
that
I suppose
bell.
we wish everybody could have a very happy Christmas. We know that they can't, but we hope you find some joy and peace somewhere.
Right. And we get it.
We do.
We lived it. So
We have. We'll
if you
see you
like what we
soon.
have to say, hit that bell.
Hit that
Subscribe.
like. And we'll see you very soon.
Sounds good.